There are quite a lot of sub £100 electric screwdrivers, but the one that really springs to mind is going to be the Bosch IXO. Current version of that is the Bosch IXO 6. So let's see how the new kid on the block, the fanttik NEX L1 Pro, fares against it. The IXO box is very much bigger than the NEX L1 Pro, but first we're going to look at the catch on it. The catch on the IXO has got two sort of positions. One is just a general light slide across, and the other is a pretty severe latch which shuts it more firmly, whereas the NEX L1 just has a slidey catch which works. So we'll look at the IXO one. Now the IXO one opens up into quite a big area. There's a little place you can drop your screws in there. This also lifts out, so there's even more room to put sort of screws in or store bits if you want to. Also, this bit tends to just fall out all the time because it just sits in that little hole there. The mains adapter rattles about a bit, but here's the thing what I want to point out. When it's got a bit in, it fits back in the box very easily, whereas on the NEX L1, when you've got a bit in, the lid does close, but it's not quite right, so they haven't accommodated that. The IXO box is always going to be harder to fit in a drawer, obviously, but the NEX L1 is a little bit flimsier, and the IXO one is actually more substantial plastic. The IXO comes with a mains charger, as both these devices use USB for charging. Any USB port on any charger should function perfectly well. So that's an extra cost that you pay for something you probably don't need. The IXO also gives 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 bits, and the NEX L1 Pro has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 bits, well 14 pieces with it, most conspicuous of which is the 6mm extension rod and the extra long PH1. Then you get 4 Torxes as opposed to 2. You get 3 hexes as opposed to 2. You get another 3 PH bits, whereas you get 3 in total with the IXO. You get 1 PZ with the NEX L1 and 2 with the IXO. You get 1 SL with both of them. The one for the IXO is slightly smaller, so it's probably not as versatile. So in terms of bits, obviously the NEX L1 has a bit of an advantage. Let's look at the other accessory that's of interest, and that's the USB lead. The USB lead for the NEX L1 Pro is pretty short. I can probably fit it into the view of the camera. Pretty short, it's about a foot long. The one for the IXO is quite a lot longer than that. That's probably about 1 meter long if I unravel it. That's a lot longer. Yeah, it's probably about 1 meter. So you get 1 meter long USB. That's a micro USB, and that's a USB-C. So overall, so we're in total darkness, and this is the NEX L1. Got 3 LEDs spaced around where the bit is. It's quite a soft light, it illuminates all the way around the bit. You get a very nice view of what's going on all the way around the screw hole. Very nice soft light, so if you accidentally catch a glimpse of the LEDs, it doesn't blind you. With the IXO, it's practically a torch. Extremely bright LED, single LED, it's above the bit. When you have to hold it so you can see where you're screwing in, and then you can't see anything underneath because of the shadow that it makes. But it is extremely bright. So overall, I would probably say that this is the winner. So for speed, the IXO and the NEX both are variable speed. More on that in a minute. The IXO is 215 RPM, that's the stated spin speed. The NEX is 220, so nothing much in it. One is slightly faster, but you're not really going to notice that when you're screwing things in. So in that respect, they're both the same. So what we're going to do now is, instead of worrying about numbers and which one is louder or whatever, we're going to look at how the variation works when you squeeze it. So from the graduation and the triggers, the winner is, well, there's a draw. Doesn't really matter about that. You get used to it because it's your tool, don't you? And the more you use it, the better at it you'll get at controlling it. And it doesn't matter about which one spins faster because they both spin a lot faster than you could do it manually anyway. So yeah, it's a draw. So for this section, I took a very long screw, which I found on the internet. They're basically concrete screws, longest ones I could find. They're all using the same one, so it evens it out. And I screwed it into a bit of wood. And I did that first using this, which is the PSB 18Li2. And that went in quite a long way actually, went in that way. Then I did it with the NEX, which is this one. I'll just line those up. So that one is the NEX. And we'll just put the NEX there. And I did it using the IXO, which is this one. And the IXO fits in there quite nicely because the IXO managed to screw it in a little bit further. Not much further, but you can tell by the way things are relative to each other. The larger Bosch did that's a much more powerful tool. The fanttik did that, and the IXO did slightly further. But obviously the IXO and the fanttik are very much comparable tools. We're on torque level 1, so let's take the screw out and put it back in. That's it out. Press the button again, and that makes it go in. Put the screw on the end, put it in the hole, and here's the torque in action. see it cuts out and it blinks to indicate that. So in terms of torque, which sort of seems a bit like a made-up category, in some ways it is, overall sort of strength of the motors in them, the IXO has a very slight edge, but they're still very much comparable tools for the jobs they're meant for, as the big long screw sort of demonstrates. So realistically, there can be only one winner for this, and that will be the fanttik L1 Pro, because it's got and has actually got a torque feature. I think, to be fair, the torque is a bit strong at level 1, and you have to be a bit careful for what I do, which is building computers and things like that, so I won't be using it for that. But for all the other levels, for all the other tasks that you do, flat back furniture, screwing in things, yes, it's absolutely brilliant. First part of general usage is this. Neither of them have got magnetic bits. Second aspect of general usage is that with the NEX you can change bits without putting the tool down, unless you keep the bits in the little tray underneath for the IXO. But either way, it's still going to be easier to do it with the NEX. One of the problems with the IXO is that flat pack furniture has quite soft screws, and sometimes the bit gets jammed in the metal and it comes out really easily. Happens more often than you think. With the L1 Pro that can't happen because you've got the shark chuck which locks it in. Except when you're using the extension arm, because that doesn't lock. But fanttik include the long PH1, which can lock in. For the Bosch, there's a nice storage tray for drill bits, and then when you've finished, you just drop it back in. But I don't really know how often you're going to be drilling with it, so and your drill bits need to have the correct end on to fit in. So all things considered, I think it's worth noting that the IXO has been around a lot longer than the NEX L1, which is a brand new product. They've obviously looked at the IXO and identified quite a few of its shortcomings, and so overall, if I was going to be doing anything involving mainly flat pack furniture, but the occasional bit of hole drilling, or just the occasional sort of light around the house sort of maintenance, the one I would be reaching for would be fanttik L1 Pro. Any comments, stick them in the comments. I like coffee, so if this has helped you, then please buy me a coffee using the Ko-fi link. Liking and subscribing is always appreciated, and as ever, thanks for watching.